The 2018 is actually my 15th vintage. Wow.
Yeah.
Where did that time go? Well, the property is 7.5 with just a little less than 5 acres in grapes. Yes, I am the unfamous person in the famous neighborhood. So just to one side, Screaming Eagle, Joseph Phelps Bacchus, Rudd, directly above me, Delaval, Minor just a little bit to the north, to name a few. Never more than 250 cases, so this is why they've never heard of me. To me, it's very important, when you're going to be small, you better be good in order to get some attention. But I thought when I went on the wine side, to the dark side, we say, when I went to the dark side and started producing a wine, I wanted it to be small enough that I would know every single person that was drinking my wine. Well, that turned out to be impossible, even with only 250 cases. But I've made some wonderful friends through this industry. When you're just a farmer, when you're the grower, you never meet the people that enjoy the fruits of your labor. So after 20 plus years of being vineyard only, and these last, 15 years of getting on the wine side, it's exciting to meet the people who are enjoying what you produce. Really, everyone is going through the same struggles. You know, without getting political, businesses being shut down, hard to get help. It's just tough to muddle through. But I think everybody's just doing the best they can. I'm replanting every year. So every single year I identify any vines that have symptoms of virus and pull them out as quickly as we can identify that so it doesn't spread throughout the vineyard. So I'm replacing generally about 200 vines a year. Wow. So it's a very French model, right? Old growth sort of model for replanting. I haven't had a full-scale replanting since 1996. And so that's when the lower vineyard, which was all planted on AXR, as soon as we knew that AXR was going to be susceptible to phylloxera, we actually went in with other rootstocks on the opposite side of the stake, planted them in 96, and then as the AXR vines collapsed, we just cut those away and the next generation flourished. I just can't tell you how happy I am. I absolutely love him as a person, and I didn't think it would be possible to elevate our wines to a higher level, and yet I think we're going to do that. So we've just finished our first harvest together. You know, we haven't tasted the wines yet, but just working together so closely for perfect timing of the harvest. Instead of 2 to 3 different days, we had 5 different days of harvest, just trying to nail it. And the feedback from Benoit is that we have nailed it. I'm really excited. I feel like he juggles it all very well. Plus, he's buying the grapes that don't get turned into my wine. So they're going into his own brand. So he's got another vested interest in that. And hopefully you'll see a Faymon Tierra Roja vineyard designate at some point. Well, truthfully, all of my mentors are on the vineyard side, okay, because that was my history. And, I can't say that I have anyone that's really a mentor on the wine side, except I'm going to back up and say Ren Harris of Paradigm. Ren was somebody that has always been so kind, taken me under his wing, helped even promote me when I first started in the wine business. And I think that part of that is because we knew each other from the farming side. So I would say Ren Harris. Another one who was really a mentor in all things Napa Valley was Robert Mondavi, but of course he's not with us anymore. Talk about a guy that really put, everyone ahead of himself. The rising tide floats all boats. Robert Mondavi was the guy. On the vineyard side, I'll tell you, it was Bob Steinauer. Really looked up to Bob, and still do. He's still with us on the vineyard side, Bob Steinauer. And Yeah, and really, truthfully, my ex-husband, Michael Neal, I really looked up to him for his viticultural capabilities, even though we didn't have any experience together on the wine side. So, yeah, we could list 100 people that I've looked up to and have helped me. Sadly, yes. So there will be no 2020 vintage of Tierra Roja. We were doing fresh fruit samples, trying to determine if we were affected by smoke taint. And in the fresh fruit samples, we never did get it, but the turnaround was so slow. The turnaround, because of the demand, it's like 3 weeks. So it was a moving target. We finally, by we, I mean my winemaker at that time, Jeff Ames and Tor Kenward, Tor really wanted to make a Tierra Roja vintage. And, you know, the winemaker was understandably not wanting to do that. But we went ahead and picked it, but by the time we harvested, it was like 34 bricks. It was, wow. It was really over the top, just trying to gather more information that just wasn't there. Finally pulled the trigger, harvested, went all the way through fermentation, and then the smoke taint characteristics were revealed. The interesting thing about the smoke taint characteristics, they're largely masked by sugar. Well, once you've converted all of the sugar into alcohol, then you can see them. So even though the one of those measuring sticks was below a detectable level and the other was barely detectable level, we decided, and I agreed, to not produce any Tierra Roja wine, and it wound up being made into hand sanitizer. Right, so I actually first came to work in the Napa Valley as a crop consultant, pest control advisor, working for a French company called Rhone Poulenc, and we manufactured a botryticide. And this was part of my territory. I had all of Northern California, Nevada, and Utah, actually, for a variety of products, but began working with grape growers in the Napa Valley back in 1981 with them, and worked for them until 1986. And in 1986, that company went through a big merger, and I had to choose between staying in the Napa Valley or staying with that company. And in the meanwhile, I had married a vineyard manager, and my life was very importantly in the Napa Valley now. So I chose to stay with him instead of the ag chemical company, and we started our own vineyard management company, and so that was back in 1987. So in 1987, bought the vineyard property, and primarily worked for other people and grew that up to where we were farming about 1,000 acres here in the Napa Valley as M&L Vineyard Management Company.
That's a lot of acreage.
Yes, and it was a very busy time and very fun. And then our story is a sad one, as so many people. We divorced. And so when we divorced, I was no longer in the vineyard management business, but now I have this tiny little vineyard, and decided to do one of the things that I'd always talked about doing, and that was having a little wine brand. So that's how Tierra Roja was born. And now I'm in the wine business, and I still farm my tiny little vineyard, but nothing commercially for other people. And as you know, I had the second property up in the Sierra foothills, right, and had that wine brand and that little tasting room and winery, and did that for, well, 10 years, the tasting room, and then sold that in 2018, and now it's just Tierra Roja.